Hi, and welcome to Partners in Progress, a couples podcast about love, life, and well-being in your 20s with me, Eloise.
And me, Sammy.
In this podcast, we'll be discussing topics like relationships, health, well-being, spirituality, and just life. From tips and tricks to failures and falls, all while sharing our story as we try to figure out building and growing a life together in the chaos of modern-day society. We'll be coming to you every Sunday with our shares and invite some guests to share their experiences too. So grab a blanket, a cuppa, and settle in to Partners in Progress. Hello and welcome back to the last episode of Series 1, Partners in Progress.
Dramatic noises from me.
I think you're switching into podcast mode.
I am now, yeah.
So this is our last episode for Series 1. So first and foremost, how are you doing this week? Because I feel like recently we've spoken a lot about being overwhelmed and having midlife crises. So
Yeah, nothing has changed. No, I do feel better for the most part. It's been a very busy week at work, but I think in a way that's drawn attention away from thinking too much about the other things we were talking about. They're a lot more around like the home and life stages and things. I think sometimes it's nice to just have like a complicated task to kind of just chip away at in work, at least for my brain, because it helps distract from thinking too much about other things. So yeah, it's been busy, but I've also enjoyed it. And then we've done a lot in our evenings as well. I went to the gym for the second time now. So basically a professional at this point. And alongside that, I've been doing some more stuff in the garden because the weather's been really good this week, actually. But yeah, I'm doing better. How about you?
Well, I feel like we've both been quite tired this week as well. Like I feel like we've accomplished a lot, but I think I just feel like every evening you've come down at 5 o'clock like, I'm so tired.
Well, yeah, that kind of has to do with the being busy side of things, I guess. And it's just very mentally, like it's a lot to kind of work through and things. It's not like you can, some of the other stuff I can do, you can kind of like turn your brain off a little bit while you're doing it, because it's just like, oh, okay, I've done this before. It's just the same thing again. But all of this is like very different from what I've done before. So
yeah.
Yes.
I feel like as I age, my like experience of like the passing of time just like increases. I feel like every month we're just like, oh, that was such a busy month. Oh, that was such a busy month. And then we look ahead and we're like, oh, we've got such a busy month. it's just life. But
life is made up of busy months.
Yeah, but I just feel like everything comes around so quickly. Like I feel as if April started a day ago, but we're already 10 days through April, and I just feel, and I'm interested to see if that's going to continue as like the years go by, because I already feel like I'm experiencing time so much quicker than I did when I was like 18, or even like definitely from when I was like younger in school with like the term times. Everything's term times when you're at school, isn't it?
Well, because it's a big chunk of your life. But I think what you're saying, that does remind me of something I've seen, not to get depressing on the start of it, but I think, again, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I know it's something to these effects, is like, you are right with that like perception of time thing, because I think there's been studies into it, and I think it's like in terms of how time is perceived of how long it is, which is obviously different from how long it actually is, but I think it's like people who live to like 80 years old or something, it's like the first 20 years take up about half of their perceived amount of their life, and then the last 60 is obviously an equivalent amount of perceived time. So it's interesting, just that way of looking at it, because I think it does only speed up from what I've read, because I definitely feel the same thing, and I've looked into it just because I found it interesting. But
well, I think because like from a psychological, like developmental psychology, that was very long wordy stuff, but like from that side of like it feels like because the first 20 years of, well, from like until you're like 25, your brain isn't fully developed, like you're still developing and growing, and that kind of aligns with that perspective of time passing quicker once you're past that, and that first 25 years of your life sapping up so much of your kind of memories and stuff, because you do just go through so much kind of change and growth on like a physical level during that time, so it does really stretch out, I think. So that's probably like, I feel like part of the reason why. And also I feel like it makes sense, doesn't it? Because it's hard to put it into words, but every year you get older is another year you've lived. So it's more time. So other amounts of time feel smaller because in comparison to the life you've lived, does that make sense?
Yeah,
Am
no,
I
it
making
is. I
sense
think I
there?
can summarize it like,
Better.
yeah, basically. But it's like every year you live is a fractionally like smaller amount of your life than you've lived than the one before. Because I mean, when you've lived for 2 years, 1 year is 50% your life. But when you've lived for
Exactly.
20 years, 1
Yeah.
year is 5% your life. So and then it
Mm-hmm.
just gets smaller and smaller. So I think it does make sense that they kind of speed up in that sense. And equally, why like I don't know, I feel at least like years when you're younger that felt like they were so much happened and it was so massive in terms of
Mm-hmm.
like everything. And I feel like you still have that now, but like it doesn't feel like it's
No.
as long or as like so many things happen, even if they're not big things. It's like it's interesting.
Do you think like our access now to the information that we have
Mm.
can contribute to the experience of time, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, a lot of apps and things like that are designed to just kind of eat away at time without realizing it's going by. So I think
Yeah, but do you think it makes your experience of time different? Like, do you think it contributes to feeling like time is quicker? Because how I'm kind of linking it is with the more access that we have to information now, things seem to change quite a lot, and there's always like new information happening. So, do you think that contributes to your experience of time, or do you think it doesn't really?
I think it kind of does, but not as dramatically, because I think it's like the way that you get information and you get news or whatever now is like essentially instant for anything. Like it can happen and straight away you find out. Whereas
Yeah.
before, if you like with newspapers, that news cycle would have been slower, and even with news on TV, it's like you'd only really get like an update once a day as opposed to whenever you look at this device, you know. So
Here's a question though, from building on that. Do you think it makes us more impatient?
oh, 100%.
Right,
Yeah, yeah,
because I feel like as you kind of have moved through kind of like, you know, how things are online now, online shopping, and I definitely feel it like if you don't get next day delivery on something, for example, it just feels like forever for something to
yeah,
arrive. Which obviously that has the opposite effect to your experience of time, doesn't it? Because then that makes you feel like time is going slower because you have to wait longer. But then
yeah.
also if it is like instantaneous, it has the opposite effect. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
It's
interesting. You've
really
got these two
complicated.
counterbalances at play. Yeah, because I was thinking about that the other day actually. Of again, it's not like that long in the grand scheme of things, but like sort of 10, 15 years ago, whenever I'd watch YouTube videos, I'd always have to like choose a video I want to watch and then let it load for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes before I could even watch it because our internet was so bad
Slow.
at the time. Um, so like, and sometimes I'd remember I hadn't even pressed play to start it buffering, so I'd come back 10 minutes later and it just nothing would be loaded, and I'd be like, oh my gosh. But it's like you think that now, like waiting 10 minutes for like a 5-minute video, you can't even fathom it. Like you'd just be like, well, it's not worth my time. Like I just won't do it.
It's the
But
opposite now in that I think there's like all about like the algorithm and stuff and how like there's like this sweet spot of how long a video is that people watch more, like if it's under 3 minutes or something. Like I remember when I was creating content for my like online business, I would constantly try and make it under 7 seconds because apparently that 7 seconds is when they stop
gosh,
for that kind of content.
that's crazy.
In the same way, your first like 3 seconds will either capture or not capture the attention of your audience. So those first three seconds are crucial.
Gosh,
I know,
a
but
lot
like
to cram in.
yeah, I know, but just imagine like we make decisions on it so quickly, and you can understand why doom scrolling and stuff is so big because you you hold it, and then within 3 seconds you'll decide, am I going to watch this or not, and then just
Yeah,
move
it's
on
just
to
like
the
nope,
next
just forget
thing.
about it. Yeah,
And it's just it's so crazy. So I do feel like it can mess with your experience of time, and when you
yeah,
kind of think about things like social media, because you can also be like scrolling and you're only watching like videos that are maybe like a couple minutes long at most, but you're watching loads of them and then hours pass, don't they? I know so many people that are just like, oh, they look at their statistics on their phone and the amount of time they spend on something like TikTok is massive.
No,
It's
it
crazy.
is interesting with that, but it's like I've definitely found with content you get like the two ends of the spectrum with it, because you get those ones that are really like short, but then you also get like, especially on YouTube, there's been a really wide, like in the recent like year or two, like just a really wide resurgence of really long videos doing well, like 2, 3, 4 hour videos doing well. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a contributor to that. I love having long videos that I can just kind of watch while I'm doing other things, but it's a very different purpose. But like, it's also something that like so many of them now on like what I would have considered fairly niche topics get like 5, 6, 7 million views. Like,
It's interesting because I wouldn't watch a video that's like over an hour long unless it was background music or like
interesting.
meditation
Yeah,
music.
which I guess isn't necessarily like a quote unquote YouTube video normal style. Like,
No, but
yeah.
I will watch ones that are several hours long and just kind of, because I just will come back to it, and then I always love to be able to like finish. I'm like, damn, because I think it helps me like add metrics to things. So like, say I use a video for working when I was working from home, I would see how long it would take me, like how many days or how many like, weeks or whatever it was to finish a 3 hour or 4 hour video.
Yeah.
And then when I've done it, I can look at it and be like, oh, I've done like this many hours of solid working.
That's a cool way. Like, it's like a built-in timer, I guess.
Yeah,
like,
but
oh,
it's
I've done
more
this
like
much.
just like a challenge of like, can I like how trying to like decrease the kind of amount of time it takes me to get through a video like that.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because yeah, I don't really use them for that purpose. It's more just I like having longer ones to watch while I'm doing other stuff, because I just again I think it's just good background noise.
Do you think we experience time at different paces?
Oh,
Because we've only got 2 years between us, but do you think I experience time quicker than you or not? Do you think
I think
yeah, sorry.
I think
Answer.
slightly. Yeah, like I don't think it's drastically different, and I think again for everything we said, it's going to get less important the older we get, because that difference is going to be fractionally more similar every year, because it's going to be like just get smaller. But yeah, especially when we met, because it's like if I think of how long the year was when I was like 19 versus when I was 21, the year when I was 19 felt way longer.
Yeah, wasn't that COVID year?
It was COVID. Well, yeah, that's true. It was like
that again as its whole
yeah, it was a
different
separate
experience
thing,
of time.
but like yeah, I think it's just like, I mean, the other thing it's proven is like periods feel longer when new stuff is happening. So whenever you're going to new places, or you're doing meeting new people or doing a new job, whatever, it's always going to feel longer than if it's not a day you've lived before, but if it's like, oh, I'm working in a job that I've had for like a year or two,
Yeah,
and
it's
you know what to expect. So
doing something out of the ordinary, isn't
exactly,
it?
yeah.
Which I think is probably linked to like how your brain works, because your brain is constantly trying to find the most efficient, easy path of doing it. It's forming neural pathways to do things with as little energy expense as possible. So that's why like a lot of us can like make a cup of tea and not think about it and just go through the motions, because our brain has learned how to do that. Almost like our brain tries to do as autopilot things as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I think when you're saying about kind of doing new things, that's new information, and our brain is probably just trying to take in as much information as possible to form its new pathways or
it's
what it needs to
engaged.
do.
Yeah.
So that's probably why that kind of experience of newness can feel slow, which is great for us because we've got plenty of new things
I was
to
going
do.
to say, yeah, it definitely feels like, I think again, it does make sense when you think of like, I don't know, the month we were like moving into our house and like painting it every day and all that stuff. That month feels a lot longer than say like last month, for example. Like even though a lot happened, we were still, for the most part, in places that we knew, and that like we like were working jobs that we've worked for a while and things like that. And it's like the bits that felt longer is like when we went away on holiday and stuff like that. But that's only like 5 days out of a month, whereas the newness of the house and stuff was like much longer.
Yeah, so I suppose like you can experience time differently based on like the contextual, and if you continue to do the same things every day and like follow the same routine, time will probably pass quicker.
Yeah, exactly. So do more new stuff and your life will feel longer.
Yeah, you'll fill your life up, I suppose, with more things. I think that's probably a good perspective to have of things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is trying to create like new experience so that time doesn't pass as quickly.
Exactly. Play all the games you want. They're new experiences. So
That is true.
I think they're saying that anyway. I won't dive into that one now. But
You've started it now.
Season 2 of the podcast is all about games. That's what we joked before. And now it's
Sammy's
confirmed.
dream.
That is no.
I kind of like that as well, to be fair.
What, just pivot to a gaming podcast?
No, not fully. Jesus, I don't think I've gamed enough in my life. It would just be a Sims podcast.
That's true.
But like finding a way of weaving it in.
Yeah.
I suppose that's an interesting theme. Obviously, now that we're coming up to like the end of season 1 of the podcast, do you think like the way and the kind of plans and way that we laid out what we were going to do in these podcasts have lined up with what we did kind of decided at the beginning, do you think?
I think so. I think when we spoke about starting this, it was mostly as a way of like us tracking where we are in our lives, going through that sort of side of things, and then just talking about things that we found interesting, because we were having conversations just between ourselves, and we were like, "Oh, that's interesting. We should record
Get
it."
the mic on.
Yeah, I can't waste it now. But so I think we've kind of done that, because I think we've brought those kind of conversations into this environment and just got them for perpetuity now, really.
Yeah.
But I think there's definitely ways we could improve it if we're talking about that as well.
All right. Yeah, I suppose. What do you think? Anything that you'd kind of maybe like change or want to do slightly differently in series 2?
I think I like the ones the most in this series. I know it doesn't directly answer your question, but it will. I think I like the ones the most throughout this series, where it was kind of like an interview-ish style, but like a very loose interview of like one of us asking questions to the other, because I think that was like the most interesting ones that stayed focused around a specific topic, at least in my opinion. Because I think, like, again, the ones where we didn't have as much of like this is definitely what we want to talk about. If it's like, we've got a couple of things we want to hit, but that's about it. I think when we had like a bit of that in mind, and then if it was something that one person knew more about than the other or had more experience with, I think that kind of led to things like me finding out things that I didn't necessarily know about you beforehand as well, which I thought was interesting, and I didn't necessarily expect to get that out of this. But yeah, I think that's what I enjoyed. So I think I want to do more stuff like that maybe, but also just try out new things as well.
Yeah, I remember when my best friend Kirsty was here, and she asked like if she thinks you know everything there is to know about me, like if she thinks, yeah, like if I think you know everything there is to know about
solid
me.
yes.
Yeah, but I was kind of like, I think like you do. I don't think there's anything that you don't know at this point. But I suppose you don't always remember everything. Like
I've been told everything. It doesn't mean that.
You've been given the information, but
what I do with it is my choice.
You don't need to retain like all of these random little anecdotes, which is great because we get to tell them again. And I do love telling stories. I think that's what I've really liked about this kind of project is being able to share those like anecdotes and stories and just kind of thoughts and stuff. And I think that was what went into the reason why we wanted to create this podcast, is because of conversations that we had and being curious to know if it's a shared experience across other people's lives as well. And just I feel like I am one of those people that has very like random thoughts and questions, and you're very good at just being like accepting them.
I like going along with hypotheticals. I've always been good in a dynamic where one person comes up with random thoughts and I just jabber on with them. I'm not very good at coming up with them myself, so I like the wackiness of it, I think.
And you sometimes teach me some stuff as well, which is always helpful.
Try my best. No.
Yeah. So I feel like that I've really enjoyed as part of like the podcasts. I think we're really wonderful to get some guests.
Yes.
Just trying to convince people to step up to the mic.
Shove it in anyone's face. Be like, sit down for 45 minutes at
Talk to
maximum.
me.
Yeah.
But no, I'm really glad that we've created this podcast, and I'm excited to kind of see where it heads afterwards.
Yeah, I think it will be exciting. So I definitely don't want to leave it here. I think we definitely spoke about just doing it in seasons, and this felt like a good place to kind of call it at season 1, because I think we'd gone over a lot of the main topics that we wanted to talk about kind of going in, at least initially, and just a good time to kind of shake it up and see what comes next.
Yeah, so our first podcast episode came out on the 5th of January.
Oh.
So that's obviously just over, 3-4 months ago?
Yeah, just over 3 months ago.
Yeah. I'm trying to maths in my brain. So I'm looking at the number 4 because we're on the number 4
minus
month.
3 is 1. So yeah, that's just over 3 months ago. Yeah. Sorry, gave me a look. That was like, I was wrong with that.
No, I'm just trying to calculate it in my brain.
Yeah. Which feels weird because it's 15 weeks that we've done it, but
yeah, because this is episode 15.
Well, exactly, but 15 weeks isn't 3 months. But I mean, it's near enough, so it does add up. You're looking at me like I'm speaking.
You're doing too much maths
crazy
now.
Times.
You're doing too much maths.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to like reflect back on like what has changed and what's stayed the same and what's good and bad about that.
Yeah, I think that's fair, because I know we also spoke at some point about like wanting to do a video to go along with the audio recordings, like for YouTube and Spotify maybe. I think it allows for videos now.
Does it?
Yeah.
I've not seen videos yet.
I think it's, don't watch the cool bit. No, I'm joking. You don't,
I know there's those little clips that you see on like songs.
Yeah,
now,
but I think you can like watch full like videos on Spotify in the nicest way. I don't know if they always play.
Remember, we're on that platform.
They're really good. So yeah, we just haven't recorded them. I think it's just because it's like it'll be more to set up because we don't have the fanciest of setups by any stretch of the imagination. So chucking a camera into the mix would be a bit of chaos. But I think that's something that we might do if we can figure out how we're doing it.
I think when I was talking about like things that have like changed and what's good and bad about that is more just like in life rather than.
Oh, sorry.
But
we don't have enough cameras in our general life either. No.
Obviously, we got engaged.
That was a big one.
Yeah.
5-year anniversary.
I think it's easy to kind of. I know that we don't really set like New Year's resolutions, but it definitely has been the start of the year, and I feel like we have made quite a lot of progress since then.
If we were to have set New Year's resolutions, we would be smashing them all. So
yeah, well, we set like intentions, don't we?
Yeah.
And I think like one of the main things for me to kind of progress with is my health, and just being able to manage more within like a day and kind of just start to be more consistent. And although the habits that I started in January are not necessarily kind of habits I have now, I think that's a kind of natural time thing, because I feel like in winter I'm more focused on those kind of well-being activities like meditation and journaling and things like that, whereas when we get into spring, I definitely enjoy more of kind of being present in other ways, and you know, connecting to nature is more of a focus for me. And now we've been going obviously to the gym, and I've been doing that a couple days a week. So I feel like I've progressed quite a lot within my like health capacity and my just general day-to-day living. I certainly still have challenges. Like I know like this last week I'm in the middle of these holidays, so like the holiday sessions and holiday clubs are keeping me pretty busy. And it's going to get even busier this next week. But I do feel like I'm managing it well and keeping that kind of consistent level. And I feel like it's becoming more second nature of me knowing when to rest, which
Yeah.
is really, really good news.
No, absolutely. And I think it is definitely a process like we've spoken about before with that of trying to figure out what's the right balance and things. But it seems like at the moment you are doing really well with that. And again, like every day I come down from finishing work and you're like, here's 10 things I did today to improve the house for both of us. And I'm like, my God. So I was like, I thought you'd take it easy this morning. You're like, well, I did for like an hour. And then I did all this, like I cleaned the entire conservatory and did all this stuff.
You're just talking about today.
Well, yeah, but like you could pick any day from like the past week or two and it would still hold true.
But I think it's about being intentional and like utilizing the energy. Like, I think that's
Yeah.
why seasonal living becomes such a kind of part of our like way that we think about things and the way that we do things. Obviously, you know, we started going to the gym in the spring, and we started doing like more like outside things and having meals outside and things like that. And I think that's, you know, I feel like your habits and activities can kind of, and your routine change, it can change with the season to kind of best make use of it, I think.
Yeah.
Um Obviously you still don't want, like, I feel there's a risk with spring and summer of overdoing it. But I think for the most part, you can still do more in spring than that kind of energy that's available at winter. Winter can feel very heavy and more about stillness, and this is now more about kind of actioning.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really helpful way to perceive and approach things.
Yeah, I think so. And I think I definitely felt that as well. Like the main thing for me that's been with that of like being able to do more is just simply having the light and the time to do things outdoors in the evenings, like, and even things indoors. Cause I know like before we were like painting inside and stuff in like January, February, but like you couldn't see very well
Yeah.
when you're doing it. So it's nice to just, I think even having the light feels like it just gives you a bit more energy of like, oh, I actually can do things. And I think we've done that really well over the past 2 weeks when one of us hasn't been ill. I think we've kind of
Yeah.
consistently been doing stuff, and you especially, but I think I've been doing it as well. So yeah, it's nice, and it'll be exciting to keep continuing that, just because we do have a lot of things we want to do. But I think we're making a really good start now, and keeping up the momentum will be very exciting.
Yeah. And how do you feel like we are doing? Because obviously, I know I spoke about this a little bit at the start, but I think it's a good thing to revisit is obviously recently we've been feeling very overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So how do you feel? I know you mentioned about like work being like keeping you busy.
Yeah, I think that's been like kind of the focus for the last week for me anyway. Just because I think it started to be like, right, we actually need to release stuff. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of like changed a bit from that side. So yeah, it's definitely been busy, but I think it's like it started out feeling a bit overwhelming as well. But I think it's kind of calmed down to a point now where I'm like, oh, okay, I've actually got like a handle on it. So and again, I think having that other focus kind of means that it kind of you're not always thinking about like, oh, here's all the things I need to do when I finish work, because you're just like actually more focused on the work while you're doing it as well.
Yeah. And I think that coupled with like aligned actions in that we have just started things, and some of those like ways that we started are quite small things, you know, they're things that have taken like maybe like half an hour, 45 minutes. But just getting started, I think, has really helped both of us feel a little bit calmer about everything now. I think there's still a lot in terms of like planning and making major decisions,
Yeah.
still to kind of go, but in terms of more practical physical things you can do about, it's like this thing that we that I kind of learned in therapy about, there's a difference between worries that you can control and worries that you can't control. And I think by progressing on the things that we can actually control and the things that we can take steps towards right now, I think that's the difference. Is of course we can control to some degree a lot of things, but we can't do much about certain things at this time, whether that's because there's something in the way, or because we just don't have the capacity for it, it's okay to put them aside, put them down for a little bit so that we can progress on some of the things, knowing that we will revisit those topics and those decisions and those actions when it's more feasible to accomplish them.
Yeah, I think that sounds right, because I think that's kind of summarizes where we're at quite well, really, because we've done a lot on some of the smaller things that we've been wanting to do, like especially around the garden and that. But
Yeah.
I think it is like the bigger decisions that we kind of spoke about a few episodes ago, is like those aren't necessarily things we've spoken about or made huge leaps on, but also it feels like that's kind of okay, because it's like we're progressing with things that are still important.
Yeah.
So I think it's just that when you're not kind of stuck in that decision paralysis kind of zone of like, what do I do next? It's like if you just start on something, at least then it gives you a path, because it's like if that doesn't feel right, then you can always say like, right, okay, then what would feel right, and go from there, rather than just saying, oh, I need to do this and I need to do this and I need to do this, and then just worrying more than doing, I think.
Yeah. I think it's something my dad said about how like your to-do list, it's just life that your to-do list is constantly growing. Like there's always things that need doing, especially when you are adulting. You know, that to-do list is just going to constantly be growing because you're constantly living life, you know.
Yeah, there's never a point where it's just done and you're like, great, nothing more to do forever.
Yeah, and
Wonderful.
I think it's just getting our heads around that. I think we're still quite new to being like homeowners, and obviously we've never been engaged before as well.
That's true.
We've never been at this life stage where we're kind of, you know, thinking about parenting and working lives and friendships and experiences, like what we choose to do. I think we spoke about before about how at the moment the options are wide open, aren't they? In our what next episode. And I think, you know, to some degree I still feel that, but just as we kind of said in that video, the podcast, sorry, you've just got to be grateful to have the options of doing it and trust that the right step is gonna kind of come forward and you can just do the next right thing. So I think just keeping that in mind has definitely helped, and that, like I said, like that with the aligned actions and having work being busy as a kind of different focus, I think has been the combination that has helped us feel that decrease of overwhelm lately. If anyone has any approaches, techniques, coping strategies for overwhelm,
please let us know.
I was going to say it might be beneficial to like share those for like other people to see as well. I think that's one of the things I'm kind of hoping for. Like I know obviously these episodes go on YouTube, and you know the comment section is always open there, but hopefully when we have videos and stuff, people may feel more inclined to share their opinions as well. I think that'd be a really wonderful way to kind of expand, because we're all just partners in progress, really, aren't we? We're all just people in progress, you know.
Brought it home.
Brought it home. But it is true, you know, that's why we named it what it is, because we're constantly in progress. We're constantly growing and learning and changing. And I know from conversations I've had to like people that listen, it's a really beautiful kind of connection to like share this and be seen and connect with people about different things and hear about their opinions on the topics that we've spoken about and just how they feel about the podcast in general. I think it's just a really positive way of connecting, and I think we could all do with a bit more positivity in the world. I think that's you've my wisdom for the day.
You've summarised it very eloquently.
I know, right?
So
doesn't happen often.
Just you getting your stride. That's where we end the season.
And with that, we will move on to the last Wellbeing segment of series 1. Ooh. How have you been? Again, we feel like I've kind of answered this in general. But it's a good summary opportunity. How have you been this last week?
I've been chill. No.
What's been your Wellbeing highlight?
My Wellbeing highlight. There's not. It's the first time that in a while there's not been like one thing that's jumped straight to mind. I'm pondering. I think probably just having some lunches outside in our new egg
was going to
Swing
say
chat. Oh,
that.
I'm sorry. I always do.
We always do this.
It's
This
'cause
is what I
we
mean.
live a very similar life.
Our brains are like meshed into one brain. I feel like sometimes we're just on these waves together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have really enjoyed our lunches outside as well.
I always know I've got a good answer when I say it, and you're like, "Oh, my idea.
How dare you?
It's been stolen." But yeah, I think it's just been really nice to get outside, and I really appreciated the just getting out and enjoying the sun for like a lunch hour. It's been very nice.
Yeah.
But how has your well-being been for the past week?
Yeah, like I said, you just stole my...
What's your second favourite?
That's not fair.
Second highlight.
If it was what I was going to say, you should think of a second one as well.
Okay, that's fine. You think of a second one, you say it first, so that I can't steal it. If I say the second one,
stuck in a loop.
If I say the second one, you're like, oh, that was my second one. So,
what is something that you or I could support you with in the next week? We've got a big week ahead.
Yeah, next week is busy. You've got many sessions.
So many sessions.
And then we're going down to see my family and friends in Essex.
Yeah.
Which will be very exciting.
Bank holiday weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Long one. So, yeah, I think for that, it will just be kind of monitoring both our energy, really. And you just kind of communicating where you're at, and I'll communicate where I'm at. And then hopefully we can do as much as we can to accommodate that on both sides.
Yes, boss.
I suppose I didn't salute when you said that. But yes, your general well-being from this week, again, we kind of summarised a little bit, but
yeah, I think it's going to be a busy week. I'm doing like quite a lot of sessions back to back. So just kind of, I think probably my focus for it is kind of making sure that because of the times I work, because with it being the holidays, I work like kind of different hours. So I work across like the lunch hour as well.
Yeah.
So just making sure that I am like fueling.
Well fed.
Yeah, like just making sure I'm getting like good nutrition in this week, I think is probably gonna help carry me through.
No, absolutely.
So I think we'll be doing a bit of meal planning and making sure that I have all the snacks and meals that are gonna help see me through the week, so that we can enjoy our time with my lovely in-laws.
Yeah.
Almost not married yet, but they are my in-laws. At the weekend, and hopefully see a couple friends as well.
Yeah,
that'd be really nice.
No, it'll be really very, very fun.
Yeah. All right. And with that, series 1 was complete. High five.
That's a wrap. There we go.
That was probably sounding really weird.
Gonna echo between the two mics.
I feel like it was like, I don't know, weird
Clammy
sound.
5.
Yeah. And with that thought, we'll leave you.
Our last words of wisdom could have been your amazing speech on how we're all just people in progress, but no.
That wouldn't be us, would it?
Clammy 5.
Yeah. Sending you love and warmth as always, and we will see you in series 2.
See you in series 2.